With a huge population comes the potential for great demand, and that's what a lot of businesses saw when they looked at the Indian market. Most international companies got into a competition on who could enter and rule in India effectively. But even the most famous American brands never realized that this would be the scene of their biggest failures. Here are some of these top brands that failed miserably in India. General Motors. Known as one of the largest car makers in the world, we're sure you're surprised to see General Motors on this list. Why would a company of this magnitude and reputation find it difficult to survive in India? Well, they first left the country in 1954 and then they came back in 1994. Apparently twice wasn't the charm because they spent another 21 long years before the final decision to stop selling cars in India in 2017. During all that time, their market share was never in double digits, and without profits, they did the only reasonable thing they could do. So, why was there no profit? Apparently, the company was struggling with several structuring issues and bad networking. They also experienced management issues that had them with about 9 different CEOs within a short period. They could never focus more on building their network presence while battling with internal conflicts. With the number of times they had to withdraw product launches at the company and the lack of understanding of the Indian market, it's no surprise that they tried to leave with the little reputation they still had left in the automobile industry. Nokia. By the time Nokia was sold to Microsoft in 2014, they had pretty much reached their finishing point. However, not many people know this because they still retain their name for branding purposes. Although they have a reputation as being an industry leader for many years, Nokia pretty much nosedived into failure, especially in the Indian market. Nokia Corporation started with products like bicycle tires, paper items, electronics, and rubber boots in their catalog before delving fully into mobile phones. They held the position as the largest global mobile phone maker for more than a decade. However, this was until they started losing their grip on the Indian market. Quite shocking when you think about the fact that the first business phone and camera phone were both launched in India by Nokia. You could credit the company's failure to how Apple and Android were successful in crushing Nokia. They were able to adapt to changes in the mobile phone market, but companies quickly went to work on expanding their base in the country. So it really wasn't surprising when the crowd of people with higher purchasing power moved onto other brands and forgot about Nokia. Kellogg's. There's no doubt that Kellogg's is still a huge name in the world of cereals. In fact, it's consumed around the world more than its competitors. And their cereal products alone are responsible for as much as 40% of the current market share on ready-to-eat products. But despite how much they've retained that coveted spot at the top, things were not so good for the company in the 90s. As more competitors came onto the scene, their market share experienced a huge drop, and then Kellogg's decided it was time to look beyond markets in the US and UK and instead delve into the Indian market. They did this in 1994 with the launch of Corn Flakes, their top brand. Although they took the Indian market by storm with a lot of positivity and heavy investment, this was doomed to fail from the start because cereal eating was still a new concept in the country. You would find most Indians digging into a bowl of hot vegetables for breakfast rather than a box of cornflakes. Apart from this, Kellogg's was pretty expensive compared to alternatives, and they introduced more products into the market without doing the necessary research. With time, sales went to the very bottom, and the company wasn't seeing repeat customers. It has been more than 2 decades, and it's still not looking good for Kellogg's. Kodak. Kodak is that American company that first got millions of people hooked on camera technology. With how innovative this company has been, it was no surprise that they brought about many inventions in the photography industry. Unfortunately, despite their huge name, they failed in one of the biggest markets in existence. Kodak's fall is quite ironic when you realize that they saw a great invention as a threat and refused to act on it. Steve Stassen was staff of this company when he designed the first ever digital camera in 1975. When he introduced this revolutionary technology to the big guys at work, they asked him not to tell anyone about it. Since they were one of the biggest producers of camera films, they of course thought that a camera without one would put them out of business. As you can expect, you can't keep such business secrets for long. Competitors like Nikon and Sony got their hands on this technology, and it was goodbye Kodak. Kodak still refused to adopt filmless digital technology, and this was what the Indian market needed at that time. It was too late by the time they decided to go into digital photography, and by 2012 the company finally announced bankruptcy and left the market. Dunkin Donuts. Another company that failed to account for the breakfast habits of Indians was Dunkin Donuts. With more than 12,000 restaurants in different countries around the world, anyone that hears the words Dunkin Donuts knows that this is pretty much another name for breakfast. But this breakfast food company couldn't understand that the average Indian would rather pick something different for breakfast. By 2018, they had closed down more than half of the stores in the country. To understand what really went wrong, let's take it back to when they launched their first location in 2012. At the time, Dunkin Donuts gave its exclusive franchising rights to Jubilant Foodworks, which is the same franchise that brought Domino's Pizza to India. Unfortunately, instead of the heavy traffic they expected on the first day, they met with Indians that weren't interested in adopting the American morning routine. Most Indians wanted a sit-down meal instead of the typical grab-and-go breakfast that you could find in the West. To them, this was just a sugar-spiked breakfast that couldn't compare with their local cuisine. We can give Dunkin Donuts some credit, though, for trying to localize their menu. First, they made custom donuts like the mango donut specifically for Indian taste buds, toned down the coffee side of the business, and even rolled out a spicy sandwich. But all this wasn't enough to market a country that wasn't crazy about coffee and saw the brand more as a pastry shop. They had to do the inevitable and get whatever was left of the company out of India. Kingfisher. Based in Bangalore, Kingfisher was a hotcake in the airline industry. This world-class and premium airline was established by Vijay Mallya, and in its peak days had as many as 400 flights daily. But this changed pretty fast as they battled controversy after controversy. Apart from this, the lack of attention from the owner and inability to delegate tasks effectively led to countless customer complaints. For a founder who was busy with other businesses, it wasn't long before he got punished for the neglect. After a while, Kingfisher shut down operations in India completely, and it couldn't keep up with satisfying the Indian market. Fiat. When Fiat first launched in India, it was considered an instant hit as the Italian car manufacturer looked like it would take over the Indian automotive industry. But this was not to be. Before long, their pricing structure became unfriendly to the Indian market and sales dropped to new lows with every quarter. At first, the company tried to keep up its operations in India and fix their recurring issues, but they weren't successful with their efforts. The company finally decided to stop its Indian operations in 2019 and opted to focus more on the Jeep brand instead. Danone. When Danone started the Indian branch of its dairy business in 2010, they had no idea that they would face challenges that would eventually force the company to close. But that was exactly what happened when they couldn't pick the right pricing strategy for their brand. Even though dairy consumption was gradually increasing in India, Danone was just not the first choice of most Indians. When they realized that they couldn't capture a share of the Indian market despite numerous efforts, they closed operations in the country in 2018. Now you know all about some top brands that couldn't keep up in India, and that's a wrap. Is there any other international brands that you can think is on its way of failing in India right now? Let us know in the comments. Did you like this video? Well, we're always posting amazing content like this, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching.